Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayemi, TEMURAH of Zayin. We begin 11 lines off the top of the Amud by Abaye. Abaye poses a question which links back to yesterday's discussion. So we have two distinct tracks, two distinct processes regarding karbanis. One is considered TEMURAH. So you have an existing carbon and you want to expand, so to speak, that kedusha onto the mundane animal standing by. We call that hatfasa. He's latching on, he's feeding off the existing carbon. There's no transfer of kedusha, there's no you're not vacating the kedusha off the original carbon. Just expanding it over to the new one as well. Then we have something called chilul, a transfer of kedusha, exchanging, swapping. For instance, you have a carbon which got a mum, no longer kosher for hakrava. You have to take that kedusha and swap it over to something else, to another animal, a substitute animal. Now, of course, TEMURAH is usher to do, although it does work, but it's usher, you get malchus for it. On the other hand, chilul is a perfectly legal process, which is actually required. If you have a carbon, a balmum, you have to do chilul, to transfer the kedusha onto another animal, onto money, etc. Now, some terms, some expressions are exclusively TEMURAH. Like if he says, Zu TEMURAH Asu, clearly he's making a TEMURAH. On the other hand, we have a lashon which is clearly chilul, Zu Mechulel Asu, of course it's chilul. The transfer, it's an exchange, it's a swap. The kedusha from this will be transferred onto the other one. Now we have one expression which can go either way. Tachas. He has a carbon, he has a non-carbon animal nearby, and he says, Zu tachas. This is tachas. Zu. It can go either way. Tachas can mean chilul, it can mean TEMURAH. Now chilul gets into TEMURAH gets you into trouble, it's an isser. Chilul is perfectly valid. So which way did he mean? So Abaye told us yesterday, well, it depends on the context. If it makes sense that he's doing chilul, let's assume that it's chilul. Like by kachabedek habayis, which can't make it TEMURAH. If you have that type of carbon here, that type of animal with that type of kedusha, we assume he's doing chilul. He's just trying to transfer kedusha, right, from this bedek habayis, which has a mum, onto another animal, which is not. On the other hand, if it's a true carbon, the mizbeach, and he uses lashon tachas here, we assume it means a TEMURAH. The Gemara did add that if the kachem mizbeach, the actual carbon, happens to have a mum, Rava added that if it has a mum, then the lashon tachas doesn't have to be TEMURAH, because when a carbon gets a mum, it's a candidate for chilul. So we can assume that he's just trying to make a chilul, an innocent transfer of kedusha from the blemished one onto the whole one. And some learn that Abaye ultimately agrees to Rava, that it's all about the context, it's all about what makes sense. Abaye, so now Abaye poses another question. He has before him two animals of kodesh, karbanis, but they're balismum, they're blemished. So they are really suitable for chilul, because once they have a mum, they're downgraded. They're only kedushas damim, kaddish for their value, which allows a transfer of that kedusha onto another animal, other monies. Likewise, theoretically, you can make a TEMURAH off them, as we learned way back that you can make a TEMURAH even off a blemished carbon. So that's going to be the question: which way did he mean? So yeah, shtei behemis or kodesh balismum. Alongside them, he has shtei behemis shachul. He has two chulin animals. Tmimos, unblemished. V'amar, he declares hari elo tachas elo. So he employs the tachas expression, without elaborating. So what do you mean? Did he mean mahu mi amar? Shall we say, or me amrinan, la tfus sevelaki? He was trying to execute a TEMURAH, trying to be matfis, trying to import some kedusha from the original karbanis to the new chulin animals, to latch them on, to feed off the kedusha. Not fuset. That's a TEMURAH process. V'lo, he gets malchus on account of both TEMURAHs that he did. Or you can say, why would he do a TEMURAH? If for the same money he can make a chilul and spare himself the malchus. Because remember, the two behemoths shel kodesh were balei simum. You can be mechalal them. On the other hand, if a fellow has a permissible option, we assume he wouldn't forego that permissible option to make a chilul, which is fine and dandy. If you do isur, do a TEMURAH. And in fact, if you adopt this approach, a person will take the safe option. When you have a heter option, he wouldn't forego that option and choose an isur. So let's assume he was just trying to do an innocent chilul, a transfer of kedusha onto the chulin, and he's okay. There's no malchus. What about the next case? The fun of this is sort of a successive Gemara, going from one case to the other, sort of building it up. This was a basic case. Now let's assume, in this case, if he has an equal option, Isser or Heter, he does Heter. TEMURAH or Chilul, he's doing Chilul. What about the next case, which is a bit more complex? He has two behemoths of Kodesh before him. One is whole, unblemished, one has a mum. Alongside them he has shtei behemoths shel chulin. Likewise, one blemished, one unblemished. V'achas men balasmo. V'amarni declares, these should be tachas these. Mao. What did he have in mind in this case? Shall we say, mi omar tmimo tachas tmimo latfusei. So in this case, clearly there is an element of an isser. There's no way to get out of that, because you see, in contrast to the previous case where the two behemoths of Kodesh were balei mum, they were blemished, so they were candidates for chilul. They don't have to get involved in TEMURAH at all. But in this case, he has to make a TEMURAH inevitably, because remember, the two behemoths of Kodesh, one was unblemished, one was blemished, one was unblemished. The unblemished one can't be in a schalal. He can't do chilul on an unblemished carbon. It just doesn't work. It's still up there. It's still kedusha saguf, the mizbeach. You can't transfer kedusha from it. It's not a value-based kedusha. So in this type of equation, one is certainly going to be a TEMURAH. So the question is just on the other one. Rashi explains, since we see he doesn't really care much, he's doing an isser, so maybe he just meant a double isser. He meant to do a TEMURAH twice. Or shall we say, no, maybe, one is a TEMURAH, but the other one is chilul? That's going to be the question. Should we say, that the whole animal, corresponding to the whole carbon animal, atfuse, that will be hatvasa, which is another way of saying a TEMURAH, and he gets malchus for that. But regarding the other one, hold it. Don't pile it up on him. The other one, he meant to do a chilul. Balasmum, tachas balasmum lachuli. True, he transgressed on this one, but on the other one, the balasmum chulin, which corresponds to the balasmum of kodesh, in that case he meant lachuli. Just make a chilul, an instant chilul, transferring the kedusha from the kodesh balmum to the chulin balmum. And Rashi explains, because there's more reason to believe that he was just doing a chilul, because why would he do balmum extending into another balmum? He's not really changing, he's not upgrading. Why would he make a TEMURAH in that fashion? Okay, in any case, there's room to believe that he's just doing a chilul on the second one. Or you can say, no. Once you see that he's not really caring much about doing an isser, so perhaps he meant a double isser. And both are, in fact, TEMURAH. What he meant was that the tmima of chulin is tachas balasmum the hegdish, will become a TEMURAH off the blemished hegdish, and vice versa. Balasmum the chulin, the blemished chulin, tachas tmim the hegdish, will become a TEMURAH off the unblemished hegdish. V'tavari loki, and he gets malchus on account of both. Double whammy. Let's take it a step further. Suppose we take the first approach that, true, granted, he transgressed one violation, but let's assume that he was trying to avoid a second one. So one was a temurah, but the other one was a chilul. In a situation where a person has the heter option, such as chilul versus temurah lo yavid isura, he wouldn't specifically pick the isur route. So on that second animal, he just meant a straightforward chilul, a transfer, no temurah, so he doesn't get malchus for that second one. If that's the case in this case, what about the next scenario? Where he's going to violate twice. Inevitably, he has violated twice. So for the most part, he's not really being cognizant of steering clear of Isurim. He's doing a double Isur. Let's just assume it's a triple Isur. Now we move up the numbers. He has 3 Kodesh animals, 3 korbanos, one of which, V'achas men, is a balasmon. So 2 are unblemished and 1 is blemished. And he has 3 behemoths of chulin unblemished alongside them. But he says, these should be instead of those. How do we approach this fellow? Shall we say that since inevitably on 2 of the 3, right, the 3 behemoths of Kodesh, 2 were unblemished, in which case the only option is temurah. So let's assume, since most is temurah, since the tmimos of chulin corresponding to the tmimos of kodesh, 2 of them, Allah tfusay, are inevitably going to be a temurah. You can't make a chilul starting off from a unblemished kodesh animal, so it has to be temurah on that. So let's assume on the 3rd one as well. Likewise on the 3rd animal, the tmimah of chulin was meant to be a temurah off the balasmum of kodesh, and he gets a triple malchus. Rashi says, because here it's roiv. In the previous case it was a total of 2, so 1 was Isser, 1 was not. But here you see 2 out of 3 is doing an Isser. Let's just assume he's on the Isser track. And that's what he meant all the way through. Oidilmu. On the other hand, Hachanam here as well, if we can spare him 1 malchus, whenever there is some sort of element of permissibility, he wouldn't insist on doing an Isser. In which case, although he transgresses twice, but not a 3rd time, by he was right, and that very last one, which is meant as a chilul. Meaning the 3rd kodesh animal, which was a balasmum, that's not generating a temurah. Rather, he's just transferring the kedusha from itself to the chulin animal. And if you'll adopt this approach, the schus approach, that even when he violates twice, it doesn't mean a 3rd time. Here as well, since the man was not established, he didn't have a chazaka. Chazaka typically is 3 times, he has just twice. We assume that he's not sold to the Isser, he wouldn't forego an opportunity to avoid another one. What about the next case, where he's a triple violator? He has a chazaka that he's disregarding the Isser of temurah. But Rav comes with another final question. Imagine it's 4 korbanos lined up. Number 4 is a balasmum, which is a candidate for chilul. What do you mean? Shall we say that one is chilul, so he only gets 3 malchus? Or we see that he's not very much caring about isurim. You see he did it once, and again a 3rd time. Shall we say he meant 4 temurahs in total? Okay, so he has 4 behemoths shel kodesh. 3 are unblemished, 1 is blemished. V'arba behemoths shel chulin, and he has alongside them 4 behemoths of chulin. Ba'amar, he declares, Hare'el, these should be tachas ela. Mao, how would he treat this fellow? Once you see this fellow is in a disregarding mode, he's muhsak. He's transgressing time after time after time. 3 in total, it's a chazak, it's a track record. So we assume it just carries on to the 4th one as well. Lucky Baba Malkuya, so he gets 4 malchus. Or you can say no. If you can spare him 1, go ahead. Even though he's established himself as a man who does Yisurim, why would he forego an opportunity to avoid an Isur? True, he's in the thick of it, he's not paying much attention to Yisurim, but for the same money he can avoid an Isur. In which case, so the last one, the fourth one, is just a chilul, an innocent chilul which doesn't carry any violation, any isser. Take it, we leave it unresolved. Okay, so the concept here is that when it's a choice between TEMURAH, which is an isser, and chilul, which is a heter, typically we assume he's going to pick the heter route, unless there's indication that he's choosing the other route. The question is to what extent. Back to the Mishnah. In this case, he's making a true chilul. So he has a carbon which is balmum, perfect for chilul, and he puts another animal alongside it. And he does a chilul that works. And now the kedusha vacates the first animal, and the new animal becomes kaddish. The Mishnah concludes with the words, V'tzarech lasa is damim. You got to ensure that the new animal is of equal value with the old one. It has to be a fair swap. And the question is that required minat Torah? So unless it's a proper swap, it doesn't work. The chilul does not take effect. Or shall we say, minat Torah even, if it's an unequal swap, it would work. It's just that midrabanan, in order to uphold the honor of the hegdish, etc., you have to go ahead and shore up the difference, pay up the balance. But the chilul takes effect. Here comes the machlekes. He says, Yatzil chun var Torah. Minat Torah, even if it's unequal, it takes effect. V'tzarech las ledam midivreim. Midrabanan, you have to make up the difference. Rashi explains, how do we know that it works to begin with? He brings a pasuk, so we see the concept of chilul, and we don't find that it has to be of equal value. It's just midrabanan. You have to make up the difference. Rashi 2 lines from the bottom says, the concept of shortchanging hegdish, underpaying, doesn't apply to hegdish. It only applies to interpersonal, to regular people. If you underpay, overcharge, the halachas of Aino kick in, right? So if it's less than a sixth, if it's a sixth overcharge or underpaid, then Aino gets applied, which means to say that you have to make up the difference. If it's more than a sixth, that's really a wide discrepancy, and that nullifies the whole transaction. But Minat Torah, says Rashi, Aino hegdish. Aino doesn't apply to hegdish. Tachsiv al tonish achiv hegdish. Aino only applies to between brethren, right? Between the yidden, not to hegdish. Okay, so that's the basis for Rabbi Yochanan, who says that the lopsided chilul takes effect Minat Torah. All of the Rabban, you have to make up the difference. Rish Lakish says no, unless it's of equal value, it doesn't work to begin with. Rish Lakish you have to make sure it's of equal value. And Tosfos explains, Rashi as well in the Mishnah. If you look in the Mishnah over there in the Chavah Beis, it has to be of equal value in order for it to take effect. That's Rish Lakish's shita. To make sure the new animal is worth 100, just like the old one. But if it's worth 90, the chilul will not be activated. Ask the Gemara, how much off are we? What is the discrepancy here? The amount of Aino, which is a sixth off. Why would Rish Lakish insist that if there's Aino, there's no chilul? Rish Lakish, in this case, Rish Lakish would say, Torah has to be of equal value. It's just a sixth off. We have a Mishnah back in Bava Metzia, and Rashi just quoted it, right? There's no Aino by hegdish. The following items on this list are not subject to halachas of Aino. And all these are exempted from based on psukim. So what are the items on this list? Havadim, the purchasing of a slave, ashtaros, documents, vakarkois, properties, vahegdeshes. Oh, clearly there's no Aino applicable to hegdish. So what's the issue? Why is Rish Lakish insisting that you need to have them of equal value? Apparently we're speaking about a much greater discrepancy in value. Not merely a sixth. which would fall under the Aina'ah category, which is not applicable to Hegdish. Rather, we're speaking if it's more than a sixth. Rashi says in the bottom line, Bitul Mekach means Shinis Ana, he was cheated, Yosim Ishtus. So the new animal is worth way less than the Hegdish animal. And apparently, that's different than Aina'ah. Here, even by Hegdish, you have to make up for that difference. The gap is so great, you can't get away with it, even by Hegdish. So now the question is the other way. That explains Rish Lakish's view, that Torah, you can't have this type of gap between the values. But what about Rabbi Yochanan, who said that it's not an issue in Torah, only midrabanan? How do we explain him? Oh, and this type of disparity, named Rabbi Yochanan would say, Tzorach lasas damim only midrabanan midavrayim, v'tortam adbeis. It's not so. V'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah. We have actually a quote from Rabbi Yochanan himself, and at least according to the next Rabbi Yochanan coming up in a second, that the Bitul Mekach issue applies even to Hegdish. So even though Karka and Hegdish are not covered by Aina'ah, the Aina'ah system, but Bitul Mekach would apply there as well. V'am Rabbi Yirmiyah akarkois techulin. He quotes Rabbi Yochanan as saying that if the disparity is so great, it's more than a sixth off. So even if it's on properties, they would be Bitul Mekach, he would nullify the deal. But not on Hegdish. Hegdish is not the personal, it's, Hashem, it's a different story. Rabbi Yochanan Amar no, Hegdishes. He says that not only on Karka, which is between two ordinary people, even Hegdishes, it's a transaction with Hegdish. Still, if there's a Bitul Mekach issue, it would become nullified. And they're both quoting Rabbi Yochanan. They're not saying their own thing. V'tarvayu. Mishmed Rabbi Yochanan. They're both quoting Rabbi Yochanan to say, true, Aina'ah ein lahen. These items are not subject to Aina'ah. They're exempted based on the psukim. But Bitul Mekach, if the gap is so large, it's such a wide discrepancy. The whole transaction is a non-starter. Bitul Mekach yesh lahen. So the bottom line is that according to Rabbi Yochanan, at least, we find that Rabbi Yochanan would apply Bitul Mekach even to Hegdish. And if that's what happened in our Mishnah, that the difference in value between the Hegdish and the Chulin was more than a sixth, why would that not be an issue in our Torah contra Rabbi Yochanan? Lo'elam Bitul Mekach. Truthfully, we are speaking about this severe inequality, so it's more than a sixth off. So in order to reconcile, we have to switch around the names. Then in fact, Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that in Torah it's an issue, which corresponds with how Rabbi Yochanan quotes him, that by Bitul Mekach, even by Hegdish, there's an issue. Ask the Gemara, Umi Matzes Amras Eifach. How could you switch around the names? That works according to Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the puzzle pieces work perfectly. Certainly according to Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Yochanan would acknowledge that Bitul Mekach is an issue by Hegdish and certainly by Karka, where it's between two ordinary people buying land. Of course, there is an issue of Bitul Mekach. That's good according to Rabbi Yochanan. And in fact, Rabbi Yochanan by us, likewise, we switched around. Rabbi Yochanan says that Torah it's an issue. Perfect. However, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah's version, that Bitul Mekach according to Rabbi Yochanan is only an issue by Karka, where it's two people transacting between them. So there we say there's an issue. Aval Hegdish. But by Hegdish, there's no concept of a mistake between you and Hashem. Right? Done is done. Ein lan Bitul Mekach. There's no concept of Bitul Mekach either. So now, Hechi Eifach Laha. So how can I make that switch and still make it work? Because by switching, we conclude that according to Rabbi Yochanan it's an issue, but according to Rabbi Yirmiyah's version of Rabbi Yochanan it's not an issue. Even by Bitul Mekach, if it's Hekdesh. Hey, Chayefach Amar Rabbi Yirmi Lo Seifach, you're right. So Rabbi Yirmi would just say, yeah, don't switch the names. Leave it the way it is. Because in fact, even if it's Bitul Mekach, even if it's more than a sixth off, if it's Hegdish, not an issue. It's exactly as per the original version of Rabbi Yechanan. It's only an issue with the Rabbanan, I'm not Torah. Now, just as a side point, what is the machlekes between Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Yeina? Rabbi Yeina says that if it's so way off, it's an issue even by Hegdish. Rabbi Yirmiyah disagrees. What's the machlekes about? Lema b'dishmol k'miflagi. Perhaps the machlekes revolves around Shmuel's statement. Amar Shmuel, even if it's an uneven, unequal swap, it works. Hegdish shava mana. Imagine you have a Hegdish item worth mana, a huge amount, 100. Shechiloi al shava pruta. Took a little item worth of pruta, boy, made the chil. The chil, it works. The Rabbi Yeina less like the Shmuel. Rabbi Yirmiyah is like the Shmuel. We're going to say that Rabbi Yeina disagrees with Shmuel. Rabbi Yirmiyah agrees. Lie. He says, well, you don't have to say that. Perhaps all agree with Shmuel's concept. It depends on the circumstance. Like Bein Damar or Bein Damar, whether Rabbi Yirmiyah or Rabbi Yeina is like the Shmuel, they concur with Shmuel. So if he purposely was trying to shortchange Hegdish and make this unequal chilul, it works. Unfortunately, right? It works. The question is if he was not intending to shortchange Hegdish. He was trying to make a fair exchange. And it turns out that it was unequal. That's the machlekes. So again, Bein Damar, Ubein Damar, is like the Shmuel. In concept, they all follow Shmuel. That technically it can work. But the Rabbi Yeina Savar, Rabbi Yeina holds. Kiyamar Shmuel the Eved. Shmuel is only speaking the Eved if he did it in this unequal way. Purposely did it that way, it works. But if you're trying to do a proper exchange, and it turns out that happened to be unmatching, then that's not what he had in mind, and it doesn't work. Lo Yomar, Rabbi Yirmiyah Savar. So even Shmuel would agree that if it was unintended, it doesn't take effect. Rabbi Yirmiyah Savar fil chatchila. Rabbi Yirmiyah holds that Shmuel would apply his concept even chatchila, even if it was unintended. He was trying to make a fair, honest swap, and it turned out to be unequal. It still works. Fine. Now let's go back to the original discussion. Mishnah says, ensure that the animals are of equal value. Otherwise, what happens? According to Rabbi Yechanan, it still works. But with the Rabban, you have to make up the difference. Rish Lakish says, it doesn't work. Initially, the Gemara figured it was just a minor discrepancy. Kedei no, a sixth. And the question on that was, why would Rish Lakish insist that it has to be equal? We have a Mishnah that no does not apply to Hekdesh. Now we switch, we expanded the discrepancy to the point of Bitul Mekach. Now we have a discussion whether it's an issue by Hekdesh or not, depending on the opinions. We have another approach. Let's go back to the original version. You don't have to switch any names. Rabbi Yechanan says it's not an issue min ha-Torah. Rish Lakish says it is. But the kashlach masnisen ilodvarim hekdeshes. So we thought it was just a minor inequality, right? Just a sixth. And the question was, what's the issue according to Rish Lakish? The Mishnah says Hegdish is not subject to Oino. The answer is we have to correct our understanding of that halacha. We thought that Hegdish is not subject. It's not an issue at all. No, it's the opposite. Just the opposite. Rav Chizda. Dam Rav Chizda. You know what the Mishnah means? That Hegdish is not subject to Oino? Ein lo Oino means not that you're free from the constraints of Oino. Einon b'toiras Oino. It means like this, that the halachas, the rules, the parameters of Oino don't apply to Hegdish. Because Hegdish is more strict. Hegdish, even a minor difference in value would warrant a redoing of the process. Even it's less than Hoino, no, as a sixth, even less than that, where typically it's not an issue between people, it's mechila, right? It's considered a de facto for mechila, disregard, and then but by Hegdish, even a slight difference is an issue. So that's how Rish Lakish learns that halacha. And therefore he says, even if you shortchange Hegdish by a minor amount, you have to read. It doesn't work. But Rabbi Yechon learns the Mishnah, Kibshutu, that no, there is no ina issue. Meaning, if it's a sixth or less, Torah is not an issue. Therefore, Rabbi Yechon says, at most you have to make it up only with the Rabbanan. Okay, so let's just summarize. We have a halacha in the Mishnah where you had a blemished carbon, which is being machalal on another carbon. It works, but Mishnah says the tzarach las leidomim. Make sure that the values match. Now, is that a requirement in Torah? Only in the Rabbanon. According to Rish Lakish, in Torah, according to Rish Rabbanon, we have pretty much two approaches. Either we're talking about shiur of a ina'ah, a sixth, and the Rish Lakish is machmer. He learns that even a sixth or even less than a sixth would be an issue by Hegdish. So you have to ensure that it's of equal value in Torah. Rabbi Yechon says no, it's the opposite. Hegdish is exempt from Ainah. So in this case, where it's only a sixth or maybe less, there's no issue. But he holds tzarach lasas damim midivrei. You have to make it up midrabbanon. If it's a sixth, if it's less than a sixth, it's a good trying question. We have to make it up midrabbanon. Not sure. Another approach would be that we're talking about bitul mekach, that there was a larger discrepancy of more than a sixth, which typically would be grounds for nullification on the whole transaction. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's an issue even by Hegdish. So according to him, you have to switch around the names. Rabbi Yechon is the one who says Torah. You have to ensure that it's of equal value, otherwise you have a nullified transaction. Okay, continues the Gemara. Amar Ula, lo amru ela b'shama b'trei. This halacha of Rav Chizda, that even a minor shortchanging or hegdish is an issue, is only b'shama b'trei if it was initially assessed by two people, which isn't really such a formal. It's not a three is a bezdin, it's just two. So now if it was realized to be a mistake, you have to make up the difference. But if you have three people assessing it, it's like a bezdin. It's a formal assessment. You don't have to make up any differences. Even if 100 people come along and overturn that assessment, it doesn't get overturned. You don't have to make up the difference. Is that so? That numbers don't really matter? Once you have that formal assessment, it's done. Case closed. Any Bamar of Safra. He taught us, when do we treat 100 like 2 or 2 like 100? When do numbers don't matter? When do we say that 2 has the same status as 100? Linen 8 is regarding testimony. Torah says 2 Eidim provide testimony, reliable testimony. Whether it's 2 or 100 doesn't matter. But when it comes to appraisals and assessments, the more people, the more accurate it is. When it comes to assessments, the more people you have, the more opinions, the more perspectives, the more expertise. So 100 should carry more weight than 3. Another question he's asking. Let's say it's not 100 people. Let's just another 3. Another team comes along and disagrees with the first assessment. Lasa, you had 3 initially, assessing it at 100. Lasa, another 3 come later, assessing it at 200. Why wouldn't we follow a second team? There's an element of uncertainty here. We should give Hegdish the upper hand. You have to be machmer. You can't just shortchange Hegdish. You can't take chances. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you, Kasavar Ulu who made the statement that once you have a formal assessment by 3, we disregard anybody else. Tzarach lasas dam midivrei. He holds, that's how it links into our sugi. He says that even if it turns out that in fact it was off, at most you have to pay it up in the Rabbanon. So if the obligation is only D'Rabbanan, you can understand that they were lenient. Once you have that formal assessment, we close the case and we leave it alone. When it's only D'Rabbanan, Akilu B'Rabbanan, we're lenient and not require you to reckon with the new assessment. Says the Mishnah. He has an animal standing there and he has no carbon nearby. This should be tachas oila, as a temurah of an oila. Which oila? What? Or tachas chatas. Le'emar klum. That doesn't work, because you have to make a temurah off something else, which he doesn't have. But tachas chatas zu, tachas oila zu, if he has a oila there or a chatas there and he says this should be tachas, then it works. Or tachas chatas v'tachas oila that I have at home, shesh li b'bayis. If in fact he had hoyaloid or kayam, the temurah takes effect. Another halacha. Omar al behema tmei. He says he has an elephant. He says, or he has vala balasmum. He has an animal which is blemished, and he says areilu oila. I want it to be an oila. It doesn't work. Lemar klum. You can't bring a behema tmei as an oila nor a blemished animal. But if he adds one letter, areilu li oila, that works, because what he's doing is designating this entity as to be used as a sponsor, to channel its value for an oila, and that works. Harei l'oila, what do we do? Yimachu, have him sold, yavi b'dmei oila, and use the funds to buy an oila. Okay, so we have three halachas in the Mishnah. In the first case, he just declares this should be tachas oila. It doesn't specify where the oila is or what it is. It doesn't work. But if he says it should be a temurah of this or the one that I have at home, that works. Amar v'damar Rab Masnisin, the first halach in the Mishnah, like Rab Meir, is not like Rab Meir. Dikar Rab Meir was going to Rab Meir. Amar ein adam moitzi dvarav la'tola. True. He spoke a bit obscure. He says this should be tachas oila. Which oila? Where oila? He didn't specify. Mishnah says it doesn't work. According to Rab Meir, we assume a person wouldn't just speak in not. If he said it, he meant it. Apparently, because he has an oila at home, even though he didn't explain himself, but that's what he meant. So we assume that's true, and in fact, it gets temurah status. The third halacha, he has a behema tmeya or a balas mum, and he declares it as an oila. It doesn't work, but if he says le oila, then he channels the value to the purchase of an oila. Time of the behema tmeya balas mum. Now let's realize the Mishnah did not require us to go send him out to get a mum, because the behema tmeya is by definition unsuitable. Doesn't have to go get a mum now to be eligible for sale. And ubalas mum, the second case, obviously already has a mum. Lechazion, since they're not suitable, you don't have to go generate a mum on them to sell them. So by their very essence, they don't rise to the level of kedushas haguf. They are considered kedushas damim and just sell them as is. Avo, but let's say he was mafresh in a cave oila. Or he took an akeva, which is not really suitable for an asham oil, and he was magdish it for an asham oil. Although an akeva is not valid for an asham oil, we don't say it's a non-starter, it only has kedushas damim, just sell it as is. No, boyamumu, you have to send it out to get a blemish, because there is an element of kedushas haguf there. You have to wait until it gets a blemish to sell it. The Rashi explains, so although it's not right for an asham and oil, but it's right for a different carbon. You can use it as a shlamim, which an akeva is valid for. So unlike the case in the Mishnah of behemoth an elephant or balas mum, that's not right for a carbon at all. There you don't need a mum to, add a mum to the mix. But if it's just a question of a gender issue, an akeva as an asham and oil, boy and mumma, in order to facilitate its sale, you have to get a mum to downgrade it to kedushas dam. Amar Rabbi Marab Masisin like Rabbi Shimon, unlike Rabbi Shimon the Snan, Rabbi Shimon Omer, to machshli b'mum. In these kind of cases, he says just sell it without a mum, because since it's the wrong type of animal, you don't get a better and bigger blemish than that. So it only attains kedushas dam. Just sell it as is. Hadun loch ketzmarimin. Okay, all the best to you and atzlach.